Okay, so remember that they're changing my voice. So what happened in the affirmative action video I made in a response, in response to them using that to insult black people? Okay, people of color to some degree, but first and foremost, black people. Well, first of all, what pictures did I use? I used a bunch of pictures that made you think of black people. Okay, whether they're the ones who did it or not. Say 5 people insulted a student in Dublin. They're probably black, even though Dublin is, square town from what I gather. Okay, and there's probably not too many black people there, I don't know. But you think of that, right? Somebody gets killed, gets shot, etc. And we see these news clippings come out around the same time as, the affirmative action debate, which is, they come all the time, right? But it's part of the design of society. When you design a society in a way that causes black people to be more likely to assault people, you cut off their opportunities, you insult them relative to their thinking, using psychological tactics, marketing, okay, social relations related tactics of sociology. Okay, there's a bunch of sociologists and psychologists, social scientists, what have you. They come together and they say, how can we make black people look bad? Because they have a certain natural grace for authority that we saw in Africa and we see all the time. When you see a black gangster in a car, it hits harder even than a mobster in a car. He has a certain presence, a certain way about him. Okay, he moves like a G like no one else can. Okay, we look at boxing. The most pronounced boxers and basketball players and football players historically were black. The most pronounced entertainers, okay, basically, and certainly in terms of R&B, in terms of rap, okay, in terms of these certain forms that transcend rock. I mean, rock is like an idiot just screaming his head off who happens to be good at playing an instrument, where rap and hip-hop quite often masterfully deliver a gangster-like way of thinking. So there's a difference between a gangster-like tune that makes you move like a gangster. You say, that's gangster. You don't say, that's rocker. And being a rock and roll type. And no other race achieved the same degree of master social maneuvering in their music than black people did. See, classical music is the music for the privileged snobs. It doesn't take a marginalized person and make it so he moves more masterfully than the other groups. Okay? And, they might say, well, these guys are criminals. Well, so was Martin Luther King in your book. So was Malcolm X. That's neither here nor there. Why are they breaking the law? And how are they breaking the law? And what is the spectrum? Again, the spectrum. You get a bunch of oversimplifying straw man argument types who provoke people. At any given time, there are thousands of hate groups in America. Many of them aren't recognized as such. Social clubs who are white only, like a lot of the Freemasonic groups. Different frats in college. And they're not considered hate groups, but they may as well be. I've seen an article where a young Jewish lady, had said that there's a racist legacy of fraternities and sororities, and they still had a whites-only policy or something like that, and she wanted to change that policy. So these groups still propound racial norms. And if you look at the bigger picture, we see every group, except for, me as an individual, and I'm not in any group, except for, grouped together with all the righteous who decided to be morally precise instead of conforming to a culture of this world. I'm a mulatto. I'm not all black. Why am I mad at white people in this debate more than black people when I am mulatto, half black, half white? The white community refuses to search their souls on that issue. Instead, they prop up a bunch of token minorities. Some are blacker than me, but some of them are mulatto, and say, what does this guy think? Well, that guy's a liar. And he's not the namesake of the most successful brain surgeon in human history. He's not. He's not the son of a humanitarian. He's not the top martial artist ever possible. He didn't make thousands of videos as uncontrolled opposition, insisting on what is morally precise. He didn't correctly define what the moral order and what dating should be like. He did not do any of those things. I did. And I said 15 years ago or so, I said, first remove the log from your own eye before you try to remove the speck from the black community's eye. And when you're in a situation like the black man is, all it takes is a speck in your eye to kill somebody on accident or because you're having a bad day, etc. And when you're privileged in the white community, generally speaking, right, not the poor white people, but poor white people generally have it better than poor black people. You're a dumbass if you don't know that. The prison is 45% black, nationwide last I checked, in spite of the countless poor white people there are out there. And it has to, and it's not because they're smart. Some of them are like Elmer fucking Fudd. Okay? It's because the black man has it worse. And they try to say, well, it's because, King Kong effect. Testosterone helps you think effectively. How do you think they expelled the other groups from Africa? They didn't politely ask them to leave. They didn't say, let's flip for it. They Shaka Zulu times 10 Ebo'd up on them and got in their face with a spear and said, who the fuck you think's in charge? And they said, we'll come back with muskets, pal. Pissed. Now, again, the purpose of this is not to insult people, but I have to put them in their fucking place. There is a natural order based on morality. And as individuals and groups, you're judged. If you decide to date white people generation after generation, whether you're Irish, English, French, whatever, you've decided to yoke yourself to that group. That's the decision you made. Unless you say, hey, I happen to be white, but I'm leaving the white race, then you must own up to the collective guilt of that group. And it wasn't black people or Hispanics or natives who colonized the world. It wasn't Asians. It was whites, Jews, and LGBT people. And when the smoke cleared, nothing will ever be the same ever again in a particular way that makes my stomach turn. And it's not because their skin happens to be white. I'm part white. My mother's white. And I love my mother. And I can't really go on about why that is without breaking the rules, so I'm going to leave it there, and I should be able to go on. I'm even part white, and motherfuckers don't allow me to elaborate beyond that without them saying, he can't say that like a bitch, basically. You see what I'm saying? That's on, and whose rules are they? Is that the rules that come from the black community? The Hispanic community? Or is it white, Jew, and LGBT with a few token minorities, and then they say, we all came to that together as Americans? That's fucking bullshit. Own up to your fucking faults. Own up to your mistakes. And stop pretending you're better when you do not have the moral high ground. I do.